Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Elisa's here, and today we're going to talk about Agent's Villa. So let's start. Agent's Villa is the perfect example we can give about both Agent's empire and the man himself. Situated a few kilometers from the center of Tivoli, because Agent didn't enjoy the city noise, its extension of 1 million square meters is notable even for the estate of an emperor, but it's comprehensive if we think about of how many structure it is composed of. For these reasons, Hadrian's Villa was included in the World Heritage List by the UNESCO in 1999. So, let's talk about Hadrian. Hadrian became emperor after Trajan's death in 117 CE. After Domitian's assassination, organized by a group of senators when he began to rule as an absolute monarch, as he wanted to refer to as Lord and God, the Senate decided to give the empire to Nerva, an old man who just had to maintain peace. He decided not to choose his son as his successor, but to look for a man who knew he could trust and adopted him as his son. In this way, he gave origin to the adoptive empire. But Trajan didn't love Hadrian even if he was one of his closest men and gifted him a diamond ring that was in turn gifted to Trajan from Nerva, and this was seen as a sign of an oncoming adoption. Probably the reason he became emperor was Plotina, Trajan's wife, who really liked him. She married one of her relatives off to him and sent the Senate a letter when her husband was in his deathbed, in which she declared that he chose Hadrian as his successor. Hadrian's villa is not the first site that was built in this area. Many Roman homes indeed were found here. One of these belonged to Julius Caesar, but Vibia Sabina, Hadrian's wife, owned it during his empire. Therefore, the emperor decided to build its own residence around the existing property. With the construction of this mansion that began in 121 and finished it in 138 CE, after Hadrian's death by his successor Antoninus Pius, he could satisfy all his needs. It wasn't just his house, but a political center. Indeed, he received the most important politician of the day there. Hadrian had a huge impact on the building of Villa, not just because he ordered it, but because the emperor was also an architect. The historian Elio Sparziano narrates that he was able to recreate in his residence all his favorite places of the empire that he visited. The Piacile or fish pond is the first building we can see when entering the villa. Its name comes from the Greek stop pikile, that means painted porch. This was just a 230 for 96-meter rectangular square surrounded by columns, and its line isn't random. Indeed, many Roman doctors suggested walking this distance 7 times after lunch to digest. In the center, there is a pond where there used to be fish so that the emperor and his guests could always have fresh fish to eat. Unluckily nowadays, only the pond in the middle of the square remains, and all the columns have disappeared, and these have been substituted by boxwood plants pruned cylindrically. The Philosopher's Hall is a modern name for the place where Hadrian received his guests. It was decorated with red marble, how the holes in the wall witnessed it, to remind the visitor about the power that the emperor held. The ceiling was curved and approximately 10 meters high. The room finished with an exedra with 7 niches where somebody thought there might have been statues of philosophers, and this is where the name of the room came from. However, this was probably wrong because the niches were too small to contain statues and were probably just decorations. The Maritime Tier is another modern name of the building. This was the first residence of Hadrian during the construction of the villa. It's accessible by a circular porch surrounded by a Ionic colonnade. In the middle of the canal, there is a 45-meter diameter artificial islet. As there were no bridges at that time, To get over, you had to use a movable bridge, just like the ones used in medieval castles. Here, Adrian had all he needed: his studio, his bedroom, the bathroom, and some small baths. Here, he used to reflect and swim in the waters of the canal. Adrian's villa has three baths. The first one, the bath with Elio Camino, is the oldest. It's named after the circular loom, indeed the Elio Caminus, and it's comparable to today's sauna. The lumen, a circular hole in the ceiling, could be opened more or closed based on how much they wanted to sweat. The second one, the big bath, was for the guests, staff, and slaves. It was architecturally less original, but it also had a field decorated with a mosaic for the spheristerium, a game the Romans played with a ball. The last one, the small bath, was connected to the first one by a large square and was most likely attended by the Roman elite or just by women, according to Ages Edict Lavacra pro sexibus separavit. The Antinoion was a temple in honor of Hadrian's lover Antinous. He was a Bithynian boy who the emperor met during one of his travels. He fell immediately for his beauty and decided to bring him with him during his visit to the empire. Antinous died under mysterious circumstances on a cruise on the Nile in 130 CE, and Hadrian was devastated and mourned him like a sissy, as the Vitaliani says. He then founded Antinopolis in his honor as a memorial to him and defied him. The Egyptian religious tradition reports that a human whose death occurred by drowning should be made a god. The Antinoion is composed of two temples, one dedicated to Hadrian's lover, the other one to Osiris, and between there was an obelisk that today can be found at the Pincho. The temples were surrounded by a sacred enclosure, which terminated with an exedra. This is the most recent discovery of Hadrian's villa, coming to life in 2003 with the 100 chambers. Last but not least, the canopus. The canopus is the hearth of Hadrian's villa. It's connected to the fish pond by the bath. Even here, Hadrian wanted to replicate a special place of his empire. Indeed, this is probably the delta of the Nile, on which the city of Canopus was situated, that was also famous for its night party. Around the pool, there was a pergola supported by many columns, the caryatids, which are replicas of Greek statues that were in Athens Agora. And there are also and two statues from Silene that are bringing a basket over their head. And their back were turned towards the visitors so that they would be reflected in the pool's water. In the Azadra, which is situated at the end of the pool, the emperor would sit with his family and close friends. He used to eat here, whereas his guests dined around the pool. A giant waterfall falling in front of the Azadra provided privacy. So this is for today. Thank you a lot, guys. See you in the next video. Bye. And by the way, sorry for my voice. I've got